Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this town hall. Spring is on the way. Warmth is coming back to us after 2 cold days, and it's really nice to see many of you on this call. Couple of things to mention. Remember that these town halls are conducted in the spirit of trust building and transparency across our institution and all of the persons who work here together to do the work for our students. So thanks for being a part of this today. Glad to have you. Also want to express my sincere thanks to each and every one of you for the resilience that you have demonstrated and that we have demonstrated together over the course of these last 13 months since COVID invaded our world and turned us upside down in so many ways. And yet the excellence of our work, certainly by our faculty and staff, and the teaching that was happening for our students in all sorts of different modalities, has made a difference to keep our students working toward their educational desires and their educational progress. So I want to thank you for your patience, your resilience, and the goodwill that all of you in your own ways have shown to keep the institution up and going despite these challenges of the pandemic. A commencement update. We will hold our commencement on the morning of the 8th of May, and it has been decided, given much student input and parent input, that we would actually have 2 commencement ceremonies. The first one will begin, I believe, at 8:30. The second one will begin at about noon. I hope, Shannon, am I right on that? And that we'll be dividing the class by the departments for which their majors are represented. So we did pivot on this, hoping at first that we could have one ceremony on the quad with our students socially distanced, but it really is better so that each one of our students can have up to 2 guests or family members actually attending the ceremony, again, all socially distanced, including a live stream opportunity. So stand by, we're being nimble, but I think we're responding to student request, and that's important to celebrate what they have been through as they now finish their time at UNC Asheville and become UNCA alums. I'm so proud of the work of our vaccine clinic. Over 10,000 vaccines have been administered since the clinic started February 9th. I'm particularly grateful to Shannon Earl, who worked with the state to allow us to become an independent agent to give the vaccines. We're in partnership with MAHEC. They've been a wonderful partner. And to Heather and Sarah Broberg and David Weldon, who tirelessly have allowed this vaccine site to be one that around the community, people are saying UNCA has gotten it right. I'm also thrilled to tell you that we will have a special student vaccine clinic that will happen on April 8th and then again on April 11th, where the J&J vaccine will be administered to our students. We continue to strongly urge everyone to take the vaccine so that we all are protected in the best way possible. From my understanding last evening, over 280 students had already signed up for vaccines right here on our campus. And I'm so proud, again, that we are providing this as a service to our community, as well as to our faculty, staff, and students. I also want to recognize with congratulations the newly elected leaders in the Student Government Association. President Demon Thomas and Vice President Ariel Jacobson are the winners of the election this year. And I've been familiar with each one of them and their leadership capabilities for the years they've been here. And I'm sure that we are in good hands following the very big footsteps of London Newton, who's done such a wonderful job over the course of the last year as our SGA president. So thank you, London, and congratulations, Demon and Ariel. I also need to give a shout out, maybe on behalf of all of us, to the work that the admissions office has done this year. They have made it possible for us to have 1,000 more students applying to UNC Asheville than the year before. That allows us to continue to shape and choose a first-year class as well as a class of inbound transfer students from a very, very capable and diverse group of persons. And I'm particularly glad to welcome Courtney Campbell as our new Vice Chancellor for Admission and Financial Aid, and also to give a huge round of applause to our admissions staffers who have worked through these difficult situations that upended our ability to do regular admissions and student visits and entertain large groups of students here on campus. We already have 526 total students deposited for our first year class and for our transfer pool. That is a goal of 1,000 students. So we have half the class in and half to go. And key folks at this particular moment are Shannon Shepard as Director of Financial Aid and her team working with families to make and keep UNCA affordable and to take price out of any worry about coming to UNCA in the year ahead. So congratulations to all of you for truly excellent momentum generating work. Really proud of you. Work on the revitalization plan continues. Last evening, Provost Campbell and Vice Chancellor Pierce and I briefed the Faculty Senate. We will now be in time in the next month, I hope, briefing SGA, Staff Council, a number of the University Planning Committee and IDC members of faculty. And so I'm very, very pleased that we're making progress. Next week, we will have a private opportunity to present this to President Hans, together with 2 Board of Governors members who are from the West and want to see the work of UNCA be better funded. So who knows what will happen in this, but we are delighted to have the privilege of an audience with President Hans and some of his staff members. Wish us luck next Thursday and we'll keep you posted. Let me now turn to Provost Campbell for some updates in academic affairs. Hi.
Yes, so let me begin by just acknowledging and thanking again everyone for the hard work at getting us to this point. It's been a little over a year now since we were thrown into this kind of new reality. And in that time, we've endured some extraordinarily weighty issues, new hardships leveled on us by these crazy circumstances. We've been re-challenged to acknowledge and get busy doing the unfinished work on equity, diversity, and matters that speak to our shared humanity. And we've needed to plan, work, and forge paths ahead through just an enormous amount of uncertainty. And as I now begin to hear more and more really celebrations for folks getting, or even just in anticipation of getting their second vaccination shot, we heard even last night a woohoo at just the idea of getting their second shot. We are clearly beginning to look forward in ways that we can be far more definitive about what things will look like in the fall and beyond. But we aren't quite there yet. And so what I share now will still be a bit of a best estimate, not shared as an absolute certainty. And in particular, we expect that beginning in the fall, as we've said, we will be coming back in person, in residence, and we anticipate being able to be in classes with much smaller, perhaps 3-foot distancing. It is likely that we will still continue to ask folks to wear masks. We will likely leave our plexiglass in place only because we don't want to take it down and prematurely and find that we then have to, there are circumstances in which leaving it in place would be helpful and wind up essentially creating more work for ourselves. So there are some things that will look a little bit the same. We hope that we will be moving towards pre-COVID normalcy ever closer, but not quite all the way there. Two of the things that we will monitor very carefully are, of course, the best understanding that we can develop of our community of students, faculty, and staff that achieve full vaccination, and the guidance from the CDC, the state, the UNC system, public health officials, and others, important to determining how we need to modify our community expectations. So we'll be monitoring that from now throughout the summer, and there will be a number of details that we will work out, update, everything from these kind of community standards, community expectations, class seating, campus visitor and event policies, to any number of other policies and protocols. We'll give updates as regularly as possible to ensure that the community has the best information in as timely a manner as possible. Turning to the more immediate, some of you have seen that we've already talked a little bit about shifting what we're going to do with commencement. There'll now be 2 ceremonies of smaller crowds with the expectation that we're going to be outside. And of course, we hope that the weather holds up, but if not, we'll be moving to Kimmel Arena. And we're working with David Weldon and others to help ensure that we're in compliance with all of the necessary regulations and ensuring that health and safety of all who participate are the highest priority. We do hope that we will have a number of faculty who will attend. We'll not be able to accommodate all faculty, but ideally we'll have upwards of, I think it's around maybe 40 faculty in each of the ceremonies. And we hope that essentially we'll get enough volunteers that are willing to do that and willing to engage in those celebrations. Ideally, this is a moment that helps to signal to the graduating class and maybe even to our own community that the light ahead, that there's light ahead. And so it'll be a unique ceremony, but hopefully that will just add to the memorability of the moment. And so looking forward to that. And with that, let me turn it over, I guess, to you, Heather.
Hi, and thank you everybody for being here and for your time. I'll try to walk through things pretty quickly. I want to echo the Chancellor's thanks and the Provost's thanks for everything that everyone has been doing. I do want to really thank all of those of you who have been able to volunteer at our vaccine clinic. We would not be able to do it without you. And so I'm going to put in the chat, though, a request. We still do need more volunteers, especially since we've added dates for a special student clinic. So this is the link. If you want to go there and sign up, we'd be very, very appreciative. But thank you all for all the work you've done, both with the clinic and just for our campus. I want to just say a few things related to HR. One is that I think most of us have seen the CDC guidance regarding small gatherings of people who are fully vaccinated, and that's okay. That applies to personal settings. The state of North Carolina, the UNC system office, and UNC Asheville still are maintaining our standards regarding masking and gathering while you're in your work or classroom space. So wanted to make sure everyone knew that. One other thing is for those of you who work with the SHRA employees, those evaluations are going to be due by mid-May, and we'll be sending more information soon. There were a few specific questions. One about House Bill 243. So House Bill 243 is a bill that has been introduced. It has not fully passed the process, and we don't know if it will, but it would allow the system office of the UNC system to have that flexibility with respect to furloughs. And folks want to know what that meant for our faculty and staff. So this is a bill that would delegate to the president of the UNC system or to a chancellor of a constituent institution authority to implement temporary salary reductions to offset budget reductions or other reductions in revenue. And it is directly related to COVID losses. It also would allow the UNC system to implement an early retirement plan. This is not dissimilar to what we saw in 2008 when the recession it really impacted the state and state employees and university employees. We've talked about furloughs at a lot of our town halls and committed to you all that we couldn't promise that we would not furlough. We would work really hard not to, and that we would communicate with you all as clearly as we could about furloughs. And we're happy that we have made it through a year and some change without having to furlough any of our employees, none of our faculty, none of our staff. And we hope to maintain that commitment. We have no plans to furlough anyone right now. And the chancellor gave some really good news about our numbers with enrollment. So that's where we are. You know, I think that bill was one that the UNC system felt that they would really need in the last fall, and legislation can move at a very glacial pace. And then I had another question about if there are any updates about cost of living raises or merit raises for faculty and staff. So I'm going to put in the chat, the governor's budget spoke specifically about public university employee increases. So it's in the governor's budget. We know that President Hans of the UNC system and the legislative folks who work for him, the lobbyists, that increases for university employees is a huge priority for them. And Chancellor, I don't know if you want to say anything other than that. We just know it is a significant priority for the system. It's a significant priority for all the chancellors, I think. And it's something that's very much on our radars and the UNC system's radars. And the good news is that it's also, you know, seems to be a priority for the governor. One second, just looking at the list. Okay, a quick question. Folks want to know about student health ambassadors and course ambassadors for the next semester. I do want to thank and acknowledge the incredible work of the student health ambassadors. They've been so creative and helpful and supportive. And yeah, and Jordan, I see your little confetti. Thank you for your work. The funding for the student health ambassadors is coming from this semester from a grant from MAHEC. Last semester it was from the collaboratory. That funding is running out and we don't have any commitment for funding moving forward, but certainly if that changes, we'll let you know. And I think the same goes for the course ambassadors. Is that right, Kai?
Indeed, we hope that we can continue to bring that program forward.
Thank you. And then last question was just whether we know who is responsible for the threat to our campus community. That is still an ongoing FBI investigation. We are fully cooperating with that, but we cannot comment on pending criminal investigations. So that is it for my comments, and I think Janet, you're next.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Hello, everyone. I'm going to give just a brief highlights of where we are. We continue to follow our COVID protocols, and I want to thank not only our sports medicine team, but also some folks in Bill Haggert's area and health services. Everybody's still working together. We're still meeting. And because we're following those protocols, 7 of our 16 sports have actually finished their competition season successfully, with volleyball just finishing this week, which is pretty amazing because many schools have not been able to do that. With that being said, we still have 9 programs competing. And this weekend, we have a busy weekend with the baseball, men's and women's soccer, tennis, and also, those are all going along with golf and track. So we are still very, very busy with all of our student athletes competing. I do want to thank all of what I call the team behind the teams. Because of our safety protocols, we have been running all of these events predominantly with people that are here on campus, either those coaches and staff who volunteer, or some of you volunteer, which has also kept us from inviting too many people from off campus and kept people a little more safe as we're competing. So I want to thank you for that. As we transition in to the summer, I do want you to know that we are planning to have some day camps. We will have a lot of student athletes who are going to stay in Asheville, either living on campus or here in the community, because they will continue to work out as we approach the fall, and they want to be here. Some will be taking classes. So you will see a lot of student athletes still here on campus, along with some day camps. The other thing that we are going to do, following all protocols, is Asheville City Soccer will be using our field this summer for some soccer competitions on the weekend. So we're easing back into a little more of, I don't think it'll ever go back to normal athletics. It'll always be, as the provost said, we'll have to follow protocols, and we'll do those throughout the summer, but you will see us around this summer. Excited about the fall. Looks like we'll have, once again, about 270 student athletes that will be here with us on campus. So we're excited to have them back. The other thing we're excited about is this will be the 10th anniversary of the opening of the Sherrill Center and Kimmel Arena. So hopefully we can have some great celebrations about what that facility has meant to our campus, particularly as we return to hopefully fall sports playing in the fall and winter sports playing in the winter, spring in the spring, because it's hard to have all of them competing at the same time. So I want to thank the faculty, particularly. I know this spring, student athletes, all of them competing at the same time. So it's really affected a lot of classes and a lot of the work that you do with them. The other thing that's been different this spring with our student athletes, more of the competitions have been during the day because there's no fans and people really prefer to play during the school hour. So our student athletes, have missed some classes, and hopefully they're doing what they're supposed to do. But I really need to thank the faculty for not only holding them to do the work, but also working with them so that they can do the two things they really are here for, is that's academics and athletics. And finally, I have to say, I hate to single out one particular faculty department, but kudos to the chemistry department. As much as we were celebrating Grace being a Goldwater recipient, we were also cheering on Sally and Amanda and Herman, everybody in that department, because I hope you really know how much we value the way that we do academics and athletics at UNC Asheville. So we really see that as a highlight for the university, and really want to thank that group for all they have done for all of our student athletes, but particularly Grace is truly a champion and leader. And she's a champion and leader because the faculty folks are also champions and leaders. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Janet. And we'll pass it over to Heather now, who I think has some questions to answer about vaccines.
Thank you, Sarah. And sorry, I skipped these. We have had folks asking questions about whether we can track the percentage of our population that has been vaccinated, our UNC Asheville population, whether we're gathering that information. And we are not. We are not requiring that our employees, our students get vaccinated, and that is guidance coming from the state and from the system office. We highly encourage everyone to get the vaccine, and it doesn't matter what kind. All the research shows, or all the literature says, whatever vaccine you can get it. And I just put in the chat the place where you can go to put in your zip code and find the location that's most convenient for you. We're not gathering that information, and if you really want to report to HR that you've gotten you're fully vaccinated, you feel free to email us at hr@unca.edu, but we aren't gathering that information. And if you have any other questions about the vaccine, please do feel free to reach out.
Sarah, are there any other questions before my final comments that have come through the chat, or any other questions that have come to you?
Yes, thank you, Chancellor. And thanks everyone for your active chatters today. I appreciate that. So we just received a couple of questions that have come in on the chat. The first one is a lot of interest in flexible work schedules, given sort of the kind of remote working schedule over the past year. So Heather, do you have some any feedback on any new guidance that might be coming soon in that regard?
Yep, so the system office has draft regulations about teleworking and remote working. We're looking at that, and we will have updated information for our campus soon.
Another question asking about any special guidelines for end of the year departments, celebrations or gatherings, other than masking and social distancing, of course.
The only thing I would add to having the right protocols in place, I think I would say that if the weather permits, having them outside is I think is a good way to add to the safety of the event. We are still, as per my email from a little while ago, we are still not inviting those from outside the community to come in and join. Normally those kinds of celebrations we know might have included those families and friends and outside the community. We're asking you not to do that. If there is a reason that you think that there is some reason for an exception to be made, please contact me, but I would like to make sure that we are keeping our community safe, even as we enter into the last few weeks and head towards commencement and the end of the year.
Thank you, Provost Campbell. There's a question, will faculty and staff who have children graduating be able to give their child their diploma? Thank you for that question. Pat in the Provost's office should be reaching out to those of you to whom that applies today, so we can get a feel for the numbers and try to work through those logistics as best we can. I'm sure you can understand there are a lot of logistics to work through with the commencement this year, but we will certainly do our best to accommodate those requests. There's another question here. Are the pre-college summer camps going to happen this summer? And if so, will they be in person or remote? This is a question for Dr. Haggard.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. At this point, we are still trying to make a small number of those pre-college programs become reality. We're in the process of doing that. We're getting down to some real deadlines related to that. This is a program we wanted to roll out last summer, which obviously we had to pull back on. We're still trying to make 3 or 4 of those programs come to reality this summer, but we're kind of in the final stages of that. The pandemic has had an impact on the number of families who are ready to send their students to overnight experiences, obviously, and there are other reasons why it's been more challenging this summer. But the real answer is we're still working on it, and we'll be coming to a final decision on that particular program probably within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Haggard. And those are all of the questions in the chat, Chancellor.
All right, thank you so much. Want to mention 2 other things before some very brief closing remarks. Day before yesterday at noon on Wednesday, this institution signed our carbon commitment to strive and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. We are one of 400 institutions across the United States. And to put that in perspective for some of our faculty and staff, there are generally 4,000 degree granting not-for-profit institutions in the United States. And so we join the top 10% with a statement about our intention to preserve Mother Earth and to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. And I just want to thank particularly Allison Ormsby, Jackie Hampstead, all of the students who work so hard on this, frankly, some of whom are our alumni out there in the world doing good things, but had begun work on this even up to 8 to 10 years ago. So this carbon neutrality commitment by 2050 will require a lot of work over the years ahead. But I hope I'll find that all of us will lean forward and take this seriously and be a part of the change that's needed on behalf of our institution and our values around environmental stewardship and sustainability. So thank you very much. I also want to give a shout out to Evan Kuzo, whose class was very on communicating this environmental stewardship messages, was integral to the work that we were able to do. And I think, Sarah, we had about 5 stories, either video or news coverage, that were widely distributed in the region at least. Is that so?
Yes, Chancellor, that's correct.
Great. Well, again, really proud of everybody, and especially thanks to our students who work so hard. Second, our Board of Trustees will meet on May 6th and 7th. We assume that will be a virtual meeting. but we will be very pleased to to welcome Moretta Cameron as the constituent representative for the faculty and Emma Anderson as the constituent representative for the staff. You may remember that we took a proposal forward for an affirmation that a staff representative and a faculty representative be clearly invited and open to attend all meetings that are open of the Board of Trustees. And so we'll be delighted to welcome our two colleagues in those official roles now as we move forward together with the trustees in governing the university's future. Lastly, last year about this time, we were asking ourselves two key questions. One was, how in the world are we going to handle COVID, the threat it poses to our way of life, to our academic mission, and the integrity of our academic rigor and work? How will we continue? That was an important question. And we spent a lot of time, March, April, May, and June, working to present a plan to move us forward here at UNCA with the blessing and support of the UNC system. But the second question we were asking, I would suggest, was by far the more important. And that is, regardless of what COVID does to us, how resilient can we be? How resilient can we be as we deal with the pandemic in our midst and as we come out of the pandemic eventually? That question we have answered with a strong, unified effort that we, in fact, have been very resilient. We have faced incredible odds with the pandemic, with all of the serious racial reckoning issues that have happened during this year, with the fractured nature of our political life. And somehow we have done this because all of us pitched in, leaned forward, believed we could do this, relied on each other for the best training and support in terms of our modalities of classroom instruction, our work in co-curricular life on our campus for students who did choose to come back, and keeping the institution looking forward, such as the admission and financial aid has done as one example. Thank you all for leading. Thank you for being resilient individually, as departments, as offices, and on behalf of our students and faculty and staff well-being. Thanks for staying committed to our community expectations of masks, of getting vaccines, of understanding our responsibility to each other until we can be in a safer place around the variants that still threaten everyone in these United States and across the world. So we aren't quite done with this pandemic, and let's keep our community expectations to keep each other healthy and safe, each one care for all others alive. The last thing is, we're on the home stretch. We have 5 weeks to go until this semester is ending, and we can celebrate our graduates and celebrate that, frankly, we made it through this. I'm enormously grateful to work with all of you to see that this semester comes to a positive conclusion, as much health and safety as we can provide for each other, the same throughout our summer session that we'll have. But we're on the home stretch. We've done so much good work. Let's keep going for this next 5 weeks, celebrating the resilience of this incredibly special, important university, not just in our region, but around this nation and globe. Thank you to each and every one of you for all that you've done. And thanks for your time on the town hall today. As always, we will keep you posted as we get closer to the end of the academic year. Thanks, everybody. We're all together in this push to the last 5 weeks. Thanks, everybody.